It's 60-32 the rest of the way. That's plus 28. Nobody saw this coming. Wilbon, what does Minnesota's comeback in this game and in this series say about them and the Nuggets?
Tony, I'm still trying to figure this out. You and I talked about it this morning. I know I left you a series of crazy texts last night because I was flying. I couldn't see it live. I land, I run home, I go to streaming, and I watch, and it's not believable. You know, it seems like some sort of fictional account, like a script, except it was unbelievable. Look, as you know, Minnesota played this way in game 2. And then they didn't play this way again. And you go, even though they played really well to get it, you know, to 3-3, you don't think they're going to play this way in Denver in game 7. It means that they really have a defense that travels. They have a great, great star who I think, Tony, I shouldn't use the phrase afraid of, but it's sort of like that. They're in awe of him to the point where they will do whatever. They don't want to displease him, Anthony Edwards. They don't. And they play to that. He rallies them by staring them at them and playing great and doing things. And Denver needed more than Joker and Jamal to play well. Those guys had damn near 70 points, and it wasn't enough. And Michael Malone talked about that after. They needed more guys to come along. It's a stunning result, but it also means, real quickly, the league is different. There's so many great players in so many places, and some of them, they're young. Oklahoma City could have been in this Western Conference final just as well. There's so many of them, but Minnesota has the brightest star among them.
Well, I'm just going to say this about your affection for Anthony Edwards and the rush to canonize him, and I know you're a part of that. It makes people forget there are other people on that squad. They have people who've been on all-star teams. Conley and Towns and Gobert, right? That's a team actually of veterans now. It's not just a young team. Look, it's going to surprise no one when I say that I went to sleep at halftime because this game was in the bank. Denver is the defending champs. Denver's playing at home in game 7. Denver had looked great from game 3 on most of the time. I was stunned to wake up this morning to find this out. When I was watching, Jokic and Jamal Murray were basically scoring at will.
Control the game.
Then I watched the highlight. And Anthony Edwards, by the way, their best player, shot 6 of 24. So their best player couldn't hit the water from the boat. And they still won. And then you see Anthony Edwards strip Murray of the ball 2 or 3 times. And then you see that it appears that Denver is somehow intimidated by Minnesota.
Yes.
When we are asking each other, where do you go from here? I don't know with Denver. Mike, that's a total collapse. That's a terrible loss at home in Game 7,
Tony,
defending champions.
See,
terrible.
I see it differently. I see them being eclipsed. I don't see them as choking or being dogs or doing something disappointing. You can keep pumping the brakes on Anthony Edwards if you want. You're the last one. Go ahead. Keep pumping the brakes on him. That's good.
I will.
Maybe you'll
because I think
stay awake through
the
second half and watch him own some games in this next series.
I've seen him. He's a great player. He's a great talent. There are other people on that team. They won when he was 6 for 24, there are other people on that team.
And you know what? They operate under his gaze. They do. They would tell you. Over in the East, the Pacers pounded your Knicks in Game 7. Indiana shot 67% from the floor in Madison Square Garden, won by 21. On the Knicks end of things, OG Anunoby was still hobbled by that hamstring injury, and Jalen Brunson fractured his hand in the third quarter. Tone, do you attribute this result? And I know this is not, you could see this coming, but do you attribute it to the Pacers being sublime or the Knicks simply breaking down?
Okay, so when the series was 2-0, I told you, don't count out Indiana.
You did.
And when it was 3-2 heading into Game 6, I told you Indiana was going to win that game.
I give you all credit for that.
And they did. And then I told you that if it goes to 7, they have a chance in the Garden. They can beat the Knicks in the Garden because of the way they are built. They are deeper. They are a fast team. That's everything the Knicks don't want to play. The Knicks are a thin team and a tired team. And all of this came true. I have great respect for Rick Carlisle and the team he is building because they just want to score. And they've done this all year. They scored in the 140s at the beginning of the year. They will shoot any time from anywhere, right? That's who they are. But if you ask me to pick, is it because they were hot or the Knicks were damaged? I'm going to say it was the Knicks were damaged. I mean, Randall didn't play in the playoffs, right? Bogdanovich didn't play in the playoffs. Anunoby played 5 minutes. Those three wonderful players from Villanova, Hart and Brunson and DiVincenzo, were playing 45 minutes a game, and they were worn out. And then Brunson breaks his hand. They had nowhere to turn, Mike. They had nowhere to turn.
Tone, you know I'm not going to disagree with you. And I bowed down on this one because you kept texting me during the series saying, hold on, Sparky. Just like I'm telling you to stop pumping the brakes on Ant-Man, you were telling me to slow down on the Knicks and putting them in the next round, and you were right. Tony, the Knicks, I feel for them. They were easy to root for. And I root for Brunson anyway, but they were easy to root for because of the way people just kept falling down and this little car on the side of the road would keep moving on. You're like, how much do they have? But, Tony, this has happened in the Eastern Conference. Milwaukee had it happen. Philly had it happen. Cleveland had it happen. Miami had it happen. All of those teams had serious injury issues take out their stars, and they just could not compete at a contending level. And the Knicks were the most of those because they had 4 starters. Brunson was the only guy at the beginning of the season to start who was supposed to be in the starting lineup for the Knicks. So I feel for them. But the Pacers, Rick Carlisle, he did something else, Tone.
They won the last 2 games, Mike. They won the last 2 games by a total, I think, of 32 points. They won 4 out of 5, and they won Game 7 on the road. So they were better prepared at the end of the series. And they were better prepared.
Yes, I'm glad you said that, and he's adapted.
Yep.
He's an old school guy who has said, okay, modern NBA, I'm not afraid of you. We can do this. Kudos to Rick Carlisle and his staff.
We turn now to the PGA Championship at Valhalla, where Xander Schauffele made 2 great up and downs on 17 and 18 for par and birdie to win his first major ever and close out Bryson DeChambeau, who shot 64 yesterday and was tied for the lead. Schauffele had been labeled the best player to have never won a major. Wilbon, now that he has one, what does this mean for Schauffele?
Well, Tony, it means that he doesn't have to hear that all the time, and not every story has to start with that concerning him. But it also maybe frees him a little bit. You know, maybe he can go into these now. People always say they don't worry about it, they don't think about it, and we know ultimately later they admit years down the road that they do, and they have thought about it, and it is taxing. It's stressful. So good for Schauffele, who I found myself, I was rooting, as you know, I say this all the time, for Morikawa and Finau and Matty Fitz. Those are the guys I root for. But as Schauffele kept playing that way, and when he got tied by DeChambeau yesterday, I just thought, oh my God, oh no, is this going to happen to Schauffele again? And he had done nothing to sort of deserve not to win. But as you know, somebody can get hot, and DeChambeau is certainly capable of it, a major championship winner already himself. So I think, Tony, more than anything else, it may be freeing. Maybe Schauffele, we saw this with Phil, although Phil was thought to be a greater player. If you win 1, now you can free yourself, or you can unlock things, and maybe you can win 2 or 3 or 4. Maybe that happens with Schauffele. I wouldn't mind seeing it.
I watched a lot of this tournament. This was a great tournament. Besides Schauffele and DeChambeau at various points, you had Colin Morikawa, Scotty Scheffler, Tony Finau, Victor Hovland, Justin Rose, Shane Lowry, right at the top
Lowry,
or near the top. So what happens is that ultimately it's minus 21. It's the greatest score ever in a major for Schauffele. And there was a chance that he could lose. Mike, on 10, he hit 3 bad shots in a row and he bogeyed. And you said to yourself, oh, he's going to fall now. He's fallen before. But he birdies 11 and 12. Mike, he makes 2 bad tee shots on 17 and 18. One in the sand and one his feet are in the sand. And he's got to swing up because the ball is on the lip. He makes 2 very good outs from that situation and 2 great up and downs from off the green. Had to chip, had to make the putts. I mean, I think what it does is it firmly puts him not just in the top 10, but probably in the top 5. And he's only 30 years old at this point. And freeing is a good concept. I mean, I think you may be right on that. There was a wonderful moment at the end of this. DeChambeau correctly goes to the driving range, takes out a bunch of clubs because he's got to stay warm because he thinks there's going to be a playoff, right? And there's this enormous television screen right on the driving range, and DeChambeau's looking up, and Schauffele's on 18. He makes the putt. He wins the tournament. DeChambeau takes his club, starts putting them in the bag because it's over now, and then he does the great thing, Mike. He walks over to Schauffele and congratulates him. It's a fine moment. It was a really good tournament, I felt.
You know, Tony, there's something else that needs to be mentioned. The field is so deep. There are so many players who can win major championships. And sadly, we don't get to see them compete every week because you got 2 tours, and we don't see it all the time. And I'd like for them to figure it out so we could see it more often. But, Mike, Tony, you can be a great player.
The next one is Hovland. Yeah, Hovland's next.
Is Hovland next? Is he next in line?
Yeah, I think so. I do. I mean, you watch him play, you think so. Let's take a break. Coming up, the Mavs eliminate the Thunder.
And do the Oilers or the Canucks have the edge in tonight's Game 7? I got Finau on that list. Matty Fitz is 1-1.
He could win.
More cow.
It's time to clean up the masses' messes in mail time.
Mail time?
Reach in here and get the first one. Ready, Wilbon? I go to the glasses. Luka Doncic says
Let's do it.
He has insane confidence in the Mavs team. Do you?
Yeah, Tony, I'm starting to get there. And it starts with him. I mean, Kyrie Irving has had great playoffs where he has done stuff he's never done before. I mean, he has really been a great second player when he needs to be. He takes the reins when he needs to. He leads when he needs to. He's done a lot of great stuff, Tone. And guys like Lively, who's come in as a rookie, they got this right. The Mavericks staff and coaches. Jason Kidd's been great. But it starts with Luka. Luka's a wondrous offensive player. Tony, he passes as well as Bird and Magic. That's not something I am easy to say as Magic and Bird. Let me get the order right about passing. He scores as prolifically as Jordan and Kobe. What are we talking about here? He's not the defender of those guys, but he starts it. He leads it. His greatness is just on full display, even though he just walks around like this after every possession arguing with the officials. He's great.
Wow. Sounds like you're backing off Anthony Edwards. You just spent the first segment.
No,
told me not to pump the brakes on Anthony Edwards.
Not at all.
Looks like you're going for Luka. I don't have insane confidence in the Mavericks. I don't. But like you, I think Luka Doncic is the best player on the court. I do. Anthony Edwards, no disrespect to him, he likes the game to be speeded up, and Luka likes the game to be slowed down. Luka has Kyrie Irving, who has won a championship.
Yes.
So he's won it. And Anthony Edwards doesn't have a guy like that. So if we're going to just sort of spitball around here in anticipation of this series, I will say this. The greatest accomplishment of the playoffs so far is Minnesota beating Denver. That's the greatest. But what if they spent all their money on that? What if there's nothing left? Then Dallas can win. What if that was it?
Pumping the brakes. There you go.
Back to the brakes
on Ant-Man again.
Give the edge to the Oilers or Canucks in tonight's Game 7?
There's no reason to go against the Canucks at home in tonight's Game 7. You know, even as we look at the great Connor McDavid and Draisaitl, there's no reason to go against the Canucks who've, you know, this is an even series, Tony. It really is. And the goaltending edge probably goes to the Canucks. I have been on this thing all year. I told you the two teams I wanted to see were Edmonton, Toronto. We lost Toronto, as we always lose Toronto since 1967. So we're left with Edmonton. And to me, the best player in the game in Connor McDavid. So I'd like to see that, but I'm not going to tell you they have an edge. The edge is probably the Vancouver playing on home ice.
Yeah, if, you know, I know home ice doesn't mean that much, but if it means anything at all, it means it in a Game 7. And the Game 7 is in Vancouver, and the last one, Game 5, was in Vancouver, and they won that game. But it's impossible for me to pick against the Oilers. Not because you said this, but because every hockey guest we ever have starts by saying Connor McDavid is the best player in the NHL. And the next sentence is how good Leon Draisaitl is, right?
Yes.
And so I think of them as Ruth and Gehrig. It's hard for me to go against them. I have this one small little factoid. The first 5 games in this series were 1-goal games. The last game, Game 6, 5-1 Edmonton, so maybe they're hotter right now.
Separation
maybe.
home.
Enough email. Let's take one last break, but still to come, horsies. I'm going to break down Seize the Gray's Preakness win. That was a great race.
What a muddy mess that was. Who has all that rain? Well, I'm more interested in Man City winning his 4th consecutive Premier League title, but doing something else a little more historic.
Yeah. Seize the Gray went wire to wire, just like Schauffele. That's impressive. And you start out winning, you go all the way through.
Tonight on
Belated 75th birthday, Archie Manning. This was yesterday. Archie Manning, the father of 2 overall #1 picks, Peyton and Eli, was drafted #2 after a great career quarterbacking Ole Miss. Manning had to run for his life with the Saints, though. He was sacked 396 times in 151 NFL games and led the league in getting sacked 3 times, including his first 2 seasons when he was sacked 83 times in 26 games. Manning never made the playoffs, never had a winning season, but made 2 Pro Bowls. His grandson Arch just had a great spring game at Texas, throwing a 75-yard touchdown pass on his first attempt and finishing the game 19 of 26 for 355 yards and 3 touchdowns.
Tony, as a kid, I really rooted hard for Archie Manning because I associated him affectionately with my heroes, Banks and Sayers and Butkus, who never made the playoffs either. Not everybody got in the playoffs way back then. It didn't mean they weren't some great players in those sports. I always rooted for Archie Manning.
Happy anniversary, Robin Ventura. On this day 25 years ago, Ventura became the only player in Major League history to hit grand slams in both games of a doubleheader. Ventura hit his first one in the first inning of the opener to stake the Mets to a 4-0 lead in a game they would win 11-10. Ventura hit his second one in the 4th inning of the nightcap in a 10-1 win. Ventura is 6th all-time in grand slams. He had 18 among his 294 career homers. Alex Rodriguez has the most grand slams, 25, followed by Lou Gehrig, 23, Manny Ramirez, 21, Eddie Murray, 19, and Willie McCovey, 18. All these guys have hundreds more home runs than Ventura. What great company to be in.
Yeah, Jimmy Fox and Ted Williams had 17, Hank Aaron and Babe Ruth had 16. And Robert Ventura should have been on the White Sox with Frank Thomas on more teams that were in the World Series, that were October teams. They had some really terrific players, starting with those 2 on those teams.
His percentage of grand slams
Batman
to homers
and Robin,
is
that was a great
amazingly
nickname.
high. Amazingly high. A melancholy trails to Jim Otto. The Hall of Fame center died at age 86. Otto, who wore 00, was in the middle of the Raiders' offensive line for all 15 years he played. His career spanned the AFL and NFL, and in it he made the Pro Bowl 12 times. Otto was Mr. Raider, the dominant center of his era. From the AFL's initial season in 1960 through the merger in 1970 until his retirement in 1974, the undrafted Otto started 210 straight regular season games, 223 including playoffs. Otto was injured so often he called his autobiography The Pain of Glory. Otto played alongside Gene Upshaw and snapped to, among others, Tom Flores, Darryl LaMonica, George Blanda, and Ken Stabler.
Tony, how about a time when you could put Art Shell and Gene Upshaw on the left side with Otto in the middle, and you just put them out there for like a decade? You want to know why the Raiders, the Oakland Raiders, were so great? You could probably start there.
Yeah, the offensive line, really a big deal.
Unbelievable
really.
anchor.
All right, let's go to the big finish. Wilbon, your girl
Let's do
Nelly
it.
Corda won for a 6th time in her last 7. Your thoughts?
I hope she keeps this up. She's having an incredible season. Time to pay more attention to Nelly Corda. Start another streak. I love this. Seize the Gray won the Preakness over Mystic Dan. Break it down.
I thought it was a really great race. One wire to wire. Our friend Kenny McPeak got 2nd place and doesn't get to go for the Triple Crown. Too bad. Man City won its 4th straight Premier League title. You impressed?
Yeah, with this. First team in 135 years of English top-flight football to win 4 titles in a row. For 135 years, Tom, come on now. Alexander Usyk beat Tyson Fury to become the first undisputed heavyweight champ since Lennox Lewis. That's 25 years ago. Big deal.
I'm unfamiliar with Mr. Usyk's oeuvre, but there's no WBA, WBL, WBC, whatever.
down.
Last one, Yu Darvish. Scoreless inning streak of 25. That's significant, isn't it?
It is significant, but his 2.06 ERA, it ain't close to my man Imanaga and his 0.84 for the Cubbies. I'm just saying.
We're out of time. Try and do better the next time. I'm Tony Kornheiser.
And I'm Mike Wilbon. Same time tomorrow, knuckleheads.
As passionate, kind of yelling at her team, poking them in their chest like, hey, we have got to figure out that the only person whose opinion matter is standing right here in this circle. There's a lot of attention, and with that attention comes a lot of different opinions of you should do this, you should do that. She said the only people who have an opinion on what we're doing is us. She wants them to tune out that noise and focus on getting better each and every day. But it has been a challenge, a lot of attention, a lot of noise, but this is a very young team. And Aaliyah said to me, hey, people forget, I'm in my second year in the WNBA. It's a learning curve for me too. They are all trying to learn together.
They are. You said the attention and the noise, certainly plenty of that at home. We heard Katie Lou Samuelson say they promise they will bring the energy that the crowd is providing them as well. Currently 5.5-point underdogs are the Fever as they get ready to get in the win column facing the Sun tonight. Holly Rowe with the latest from Indianapolis. Kevin?
Let's go to the NFL. So many quarterbacks have gotten paid recently, but Tua Tagovailoa still waiting and entering the final year of his developing story in the NFL. One big name player not at the start of OTAs, according to Adam Schefter, is Vikings wide receiver Justin Jefferson, who's entering the final year of his rookie contract. A.J. Brown, Devontae Smith, Amon-Ra St. Brown all got their extensions this offseason, but a handful of big-name wide receivers remain looking for new deals. Along with Jefferson, they include CeeDee Lamb and Jamar Chase.
Still to come on SportsCenter, defending champs, and what the Nuggets should prioritize to reclaim their spot atop the Western Conference next year. Plus, the most important offseason move that can help the Knicks build on their remarkable postseason run. Also, as games begin around the NFL, the Patriots deliver an update on the expected timeline for Drake May to make his first start for New England. SportsCenter continues next.
On SportsCenter, today's a milestone and a new era of Patriots football. The first day of organized team activities with a new coach, Gerard Mayo, new quarterback, Drake May, Bill Belichick, Tom Brady, not walking through that door. Mayo did, though, and, well, here's what he said.
I thought Drake did a great job, not only, progressing on the field, but also off the field. You can already tell, like, he's going to put in that extra work. I walk by the quarterback meeting room. He's just in there by himself watching film. And those are the things that you want to see, and excited to see his growth going forward. Look, he's learning a new playbook. He's learning a new language. He's learning his teammates. He's learning, fundamentals that we preach here. So it's a lot for him. At the same time, I think he can. I know he can handle it, and I just look forward to seeing him progress.
Now, I'm going to give you some analysis that you're only going to get here on SportsCenter, Kevin. You ready?
Okay, can't wait.
The Patriots have struggled on offense since Tom Brady left in 2020.
Wow.
I know.
That is bottom line breaking
news.
news.
It's crazy. They rank near the bottom of the league in offensive points per game, passing yards, QBR, touchdown to interception ratio, blah, blah, blah.
It's bad.
Moxie, energy, relevancy. They're 9 games under 500. That, too, as a team during that span as well. Here's Mike Reese, our Patriots reporter, with much more on the scene.
Patriots coach Gerard Mayo said he walked by the quarterback meeting room and saw Drake May inside, alone watching film. He likes that work ethic. At the same time, it's clear the Patriots are taking it slowly with May. Not only did he work behind veteran Jacoby Brissett in Monday's practice, but he was also behind Bailey Zappi. When the team came together for 11-on-11 drills, Brissett took 8 reps, Zappi 4, and May just 3. Mayo said there's no timetable for when May might be ready to play, and this practice certainly reflected that. In Foxborough, Mike Reese, ESPN.
Hey, we got more OTA talk ahead. We're going to hear from Bryce Young on the changes that he's seeing in camp as the Panthers embark on a new era under their new head coach.
Now back to the NBA, where this round of the Knicks-Pacers rivalry went squarely to Indiana. The Pacers walked into MSG yesterday and channeled Reggie Miller, the entire team shooting a playoff record 67% from the floor to rout the Knicks 130-109 in Game 7. Jalen Brunson held the 17 points and he broke his hand. Tough way to go out.
It's part of the game, and like I said, there's this group, we didn't make excuses for anything, and so if things happen, we move forward with what we had, and obviously we want everyone healthy. I think that's the most important thing, but I think as a group, we had that mindset, like, next man up, and we really took it to heart. Did we win the championship? Did we get close?
Back with us here. K-Perk, what's the biggest decision the Knicks need to make this offseason?
Well, Kev, you look at the New York Knicks right now, you know what they are? They like me. They eye candy, okay? They eye candy. They're an attractive organization to go play with. And if you get a disgruntled all-star, superstar caliber player, they're going to want to head to New York City to play in the Madison Square Garden alongside Big Body Bronson. So if you're the New York Knicks, right, you're looking at that all-star caliber player to pair alongside Jalen Bronson. Is it going to be Julius Randle, right? Do they complement each other enough to get them over the hump, and that's reaching the NBA Finals? I don't believe so, but but they could see. Might want to re-sign him. But at the end of the day, if you look across the league right now, you look at all the teams that are competing for something, that are still in the postseason, they have 2 to 3 all-star caliber players. I believe Julius Randle is a walking 20 and 10 guy, but at the end of the day, is he going to match with the culture they already have? Probably going to re-sign OG Anunoby. I think you need to get a little bit more offensive firepower. You might have to go big fish hunting if you're the New York Knicks. They have the picks and they have the pieces.
Kendrick Perkins' resume here, El, so far. NBA champ, Texas Sports Hall of Famer. Congrats on that.
Yeah.
And then
I
eye
appreciate
candy.
you.
Yeah.
Eye candy at the top.
Eye candy. Yeah.
Eye candy at the top.
That's why we have him on, Kevin, to objectify him. Coming up, more eye candy. After the Nuggets Game 7 collapse, the biggest offseason move that could help Denver reclaim its crown in the West. K-Perk back with us in just a couple of minutes. The Sun and Fever set to tip off at the top of the hour. We're going to preview tonight's test for Caitlin Clark as she seeks her first win in the W. We are live courtside when SportsCenter Stenhouse was angered. You see her right there. After Bush wrecked him on the second lap, the punch set off a melee between the crews, Kevin.
Marvin Harrison Jr., the 4th pick in last month's NFL draft, is being sued by Fanatics for breach of contract. The company says the Cardinals wide receiver has not fulfilled the terms of the deal that was signed last May. The lawsuit claims that Harrison's dad, Marvin Harrison Sr., told the company that they don't have a deal. Harrison also has not signed the NFL Players Association Group licensing agreement. All right, from rookie to second year, the Panthers' Bryce Young trying to find some new wide receivers and some help. Had a rough first season leading the league's worst offense, compounded by the fact that the guy who was drafted behind him, C.J. Stroud, was fantastic. But it's spring, so there's hope, especially for new head coach Dave Canales.
Some guys are more accurate than others, so I think it's the ability of Bryce to be able to throw to different body types, different speeds, different quickness at the top of routes. So I'm really impressed with that part of it.
This is new energy, it's a lot of new philosophy. So for me, it's just about taking all that coaching. I trust them and learning from them. So just want to keep building.
He needs to build on something. Young's 33 QBR ranked 29th in the league last year, ahead of only Zach Wilson. Young is the only quarterback in the bottom 5 to keep his starting job entering 2024 training camp. The Panthers didn't stand pat, though, thankfully, adding Canales. They also added pass catchers Xavier Legette in the draft and traded for Deontay Johnson. He needs some help, and thankfully he's getting somebody that can catch the ball.
The Timberwolves are into the Western Conference Final for the first time in 20 years after overcoming a 20-point third-quarter deficit against the Nuggets, completing the largest comeback in a Game 7 in 25 seasons. But for Minnesota, the real show truly begins at the press conferences, where its 2 young stars almost outshine their contributions on the court, as Coley Harvey relays in tonight's SportsCenter report.
It isn't just the Timberwolves on the court heroics providing viral content. Their off the court sequence.
Yeah, but that's different. You have to lose at a bigger stage. Usually, teams.
It's the playoffs. We lost last year.
We lost the last 2 years.
Damn, how much more we gotta lose?
Yeah, how much you want us to lose?
We're losing for 20 years.
I mean, that's just the truth, dog.
Damn.
Karl Anthony Towns isn't wrong. Over the last 20 years, the team has missed the playoffs 16 times. But this post-game display was just the latest demonstration of the unique chemistry between the club's franchise players, Towns and Anthony Edwards. And that relationship is defining what success looks like for this team.
That wasn't Timberwolves basketball. That was Park basketball. Then we started.
That was Wolves basketball.
Then we started playing. That was Wolves. Now we play Timberwolves at the end. Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
And those two play off each other so well in those post-game pressers. It almost becomes must-see TV, right, Michelle? I mean, you can't miss that stuff. It's awesome to see Ant and Kat interact like that, and it shines through on the court. I mean, it's not forced, it's genuine. And when you have that kind of special bond, I think that shows up in the way you play on the floor.
Alan Horton is in his 17th season as the play-by-play voice of the Timberwolves and has seen the change in Towns firsthand since Edwards was drafted in 2020. Pairing two former number 1 overall picks can be awkward, but not in Minnesota, where Towns has adjusted his game to maximize Edwards.
He doesn't have to lead the way in scoring every night. He doesn't have to pick up 25, 30, 35 points on a nightly basis like maybe he did in years past. The Timberwolves have had the number 1 defense in the league, and Cat has not been known for his defense, but he's been tremendous this year. By far and away, his best defensive season. What's made it special is those two individuals and their personalities and their willingness to realize that they need each other and they need the rest of their teammates. They realize that they can't do this all on their own.
Edwards' charisma hasn't been fun just for his teammates after he had this exchange with Charles Barkley in the post-game interview.
I have not been to Minnesota in probably 20 years. Bring your ass. Hey.
That exact remark is being reproduced on T-shirts and sparked even a grassroots campaign to make it the tourism slogan for the state of Minnesota, an idea that's even caught the attention of the governor. The Timberwolves could be making history in a multitude of ways in the coming weeks. I'm Michelle Steele, ESPN.
Well, it is Hoochie Day. We have self-professed eye candy, Kendrick Perkins, back with us here on Sports Center. I don't know, want to know if you're wearing those shorts or not. What I do want to know is for you to talk about the Nuggets. They blow a 20-point lead in the second half yesterday, Perk. So what does Denver need to do to surround stars like Nikola Jokic and Jamal Murray moving forward?
Well, they didn't blow a 20-point lead, okay? Yeah, Minnesota took that. They took their lunch money. Let's get that understood first, okay? But when you look at the Nuggets, the question this offseason, right, was the depth. Was those young guys like Christian Brown, was he going to be able to rise to the occasion? Was Reggie Jackson going to be able to be consistent off the bench? And the answer was no. And I thought Minnesota did an excellent job of exposing that. Losing Bruce Brown this offseason, losing last offseason, losing Jeff Green last offseason, came back to hunt the defending champs. And we all know in order to make that real run of completing the mission and winning the NBA championship, you have to have depth. And you have to have guys that are going to be consistent coming in off the bench and lifting up your starters, especially guys like Aaron Gordon and Michael Porter Jr. when they don't have it going. Just remember, last year in the NBA Finals, Michael Porter Jr. was sitting the fourth quarter against the Miami Heat, and we were wondering if Michael Malone was going to switch it up and start Bruce Brown in the starting lineup, but he didn't. That's what you need. You need guys on that bench in order to complete the mission.
Yeah, Murray and Jokic combining for almost 70 points, but the rest of the team, 21 points on 8 of 28 shooting from the field. K. Perk, appreciate you blessing us here on SportsCenter.
You already know, yeah.
Here's what we know. Top of the hour, Caitlin Clark and the Fever facing the Sun on ESPN. She leads all rookies with 17 points per game this season. Scored 20 in the first meeting against the Sun last Tuesday. As a team, though, they lost. For much more, here's Ryan Rucco and Rebecca Lobo.
In Indianapolis, Caitlin Clark getting ready for her second home game as a member of the Fever. Alyssa Thomas and Connecticut looking to improve to 3-0 as we welcome you courtside, Ryan Rucco.
Game 7, but we begin today with the stunning comeback win by the Minnesota Timberwolves in Game 7 over Denver. Minnesota was down by 20 points in the third quarter on the road and then outscored the Nuggets.
That the Patriots will go through some struggles at some point early in the season, in the middle of the season, and once they go through some struggles, and if and when they fall out of the playoff race, we know what all the fans are going to be screaming for. We know what all the conversation is going to be about. When do we get to see Drake May? And so this becomes a challenge for every team that drafts a quarterback every year. How long can they be patient? How long can they withstand all the calls for their rookie quarterback? And there have been any number of teams through the years who have said, we're not going to play our guy right away, only to play their guy sooner than people expect.
You guys think the chants are going to be like Drake, or Drake May, or how would you chant if you were chanting for him to get in the game?
Mad
at me right now?
I don't know. I don't think it's going to be. I certainly don't think it's going to go Drake. I don't think it'll be that.
Okay. Well, the good thing is I don't usually sit in the stands, so I won't be doing any chanting.
What a humble brag,
Okay,
Shefty. I'm on the
let's read and react to more quarterback news around the NFL. Beginning in Buffalo, where Josh Allen has been fantastic in the last 4 seasons, ranking behind only Patrick Mahomes in wins, total QBR, passing touchdowns, and passing yards. Here's what his former teammate and now Dolphin back in the league. I know that might go viral, but it's okay. I get to see y'all twice a year. I can't wait. Sam, Josh Allen, the best QB?
Well, I love the conversation. He's top 2, and he may not be 1 in the situation. But here's the thing. He's behind Patrick Mahomes in all those categories, but he also is ahead of Patrick Mahomes when it comes to total touchdowns. And so how prolific that we've seen Josh Allen, even with a lot of changes in offensive coordinator, right? Ryan Daboll no longer there. We saw Dorsey. Now you got a new coordinator as well. I've been excited to see what he's been able to do, Josh Allen in Buffalo, with all the change.
Let's go to the Raiders, who took Brock Bowers in the first round of the draft. And that's great news for Aiden O'Connell, who was much better with the 2 tight ends on the field last season. Here's Vegas's other tight end, Michael Mayer, on how he anticipates Bowers fitting into the offense. He said this to the Las Vegas Review-Journal, and our job is to win a ball game. As an offense, we need to score touchdowns. That's what we're going to do to the best of our ability. I think we're going to be dangerous. We had a few spaces there before we got to dangerous. That's the biggest point, Dan. What do you anticipate from this Raiders offense?
Yeah, I do love the 2 tight end package with him and Brock Bowers, and I do love the fact that it's going to be Devontae Adams and Jacoby Myers. I don't see dangerous out of this offense. I think it's really hard in the NFL to be a dangerous offense with what we think are good quarterbacks, not elite or high-end game-changing quarterbacks. Do I think they have the chance to be competent offensively? Unquestionably, because some of the perimeter and skill talent. Quarterback play, I think, is going to be what holds them back from being dangerous.
Yeah, especially since they had a chance to maybe get a quarterback in the draft. You wonder how people receive that. Let's go to the Panthers. They weren't good in 2023, posting the league's worst record. They scored an NFL low, 12.6 points per game on offense and averaged just 4.1 yards per play. Here's a little bit more on what their expectations are heading into next year.
Some guys are more accurate than others, so I think it's the ability of Bryce to be able to throw to different body types, different speeds, different quickness at the top of routes. So I'm really impressed with that part of it.
This is new energy. It's a lot of new philosophy. So for me, it's just about taking all that coaching. I trust them and learning from them. So just want to keep building.
Adam, you saw the coaching changes there. Dave Canales now the head coach. What are your expectations for Bryce Young this season?
Laura, everything that the Panthers did this offseason was in an effort to improve Bryce Young this season. They signed 2 guards, Robert Hunt and Damian Lewis. They drafted a wide receiver, Xavier Legette, and a running back in Jonathan Brooks. They traded for Deontay Johnson. They drafted a tight end, Jatavian Sanders. So they've made noticeable improvements across the board on the offensive side, all aimed at getting Bryce Young up to his level of play.
We know he's capable of it. We'll see if they can pull it off next season. Still to come on NFL Live, we welcome Monday Night Football play-by-play man Joe Buck. He'll kick us off with the Jets and 49ers on Monday Night Football. He'll also tell you the other games he has circled on the schedule. Don't miss it. The first and the last game, ones to look out for. A lot more on ESPN after this.